In the 1960s, in the U.S. Army, there was a term for an overridden U.S. infantry position called broken arrow. If a radioman called out broken arrow, any and all help from the air infantry, air cavalry would come in, whether it's a B-52 for carpet bombing, whether it's helicopter gunships, whether it's even a small Cessna acting as a site to say, the enemy's coming in from the north. If you go to the west, you'll have an escape and can live to fight another day. Any small amount of information was able to help the person on the ground. This talk for broken arrow is for when the enemy is inside the perimeter, meaning for information security, fix my desktop is now fix my situation. We used to help people set up routers. We used to help people build desktops, build laptops to build their home network. And now it's more, hey, you work in information security. Can you help me? My ex is stalking me. He's still able to see my Facebook post. He still has access to my Twitter. He still has access to my cell phone records. Is there something you can do? Naturally, we're, as a culture driven, we want to do something. And this talk is geared to help you get the toolkit, the mindset, so that you can do something to give somebody assistance. When you're working in the SOC, we've got a lot of different tools for digital forensics, for insider threat, incident response, what have you. You know, we've got Splunk that monitors network traffic, and we'll come back to that one already. We'll start putting some hooks out there. We can look and see the logon dates and times, the network traffic, the badge access, the O365 compliance, email productivity. You can see what they're doing, the edits they made, what was deleted, remote file access. Some companies use Druva, where you can remotely connect to a desktop to see what that 7-zip file on the desktop truly contains. Even McAfee DLP, we can see what USB is connected, what was printed, what data was copied to the clipboard, what sensitive data was sent out. If you're working for a pharmaceutical and the keyword is COVID, you've probably been pretty busy, but all that's recorded. The difference is, for those of us working at a SOC, there's a consent to monitoring. Every time you log on, there's the warning. Everything you do is going to be monitored for later retrieval and analysis, whether it's counterintelligence, whether it's security, whether it's energy compliance from DOE. The end user is aware that they're being monitored. At home, that's not necessarily the case. A lot of things we're going to talk about in this upcoming 45 minutes or so are cases that I've had with Operation Safe Escape. That's a volunteer organization that provides domestic abuse resources where it's not quite a social worker, it's not quite law enforcement, it's the gray area for the technical means. We have two websites, goaskrose.com and safeescape.org. If you want to volunteer and help, it's help@safeescape.org. If you need help or have somebody who wants help, you can go to help@safeescape.org. The emails get parsed all the same. If you want a hardback book to look for assistance, the Smart Girl's Guide to Privacy is a good way to go about this. But this is just a short introduction and appreciation to Chris Cox, who started the organization. And even if it's just, again, just a little bit of information, say, oh, this is how my ex is able to get my text messages. If I change this radio setting on my iPhone, I have privacy again, then the talk has been worth it. So in information security, there's the three key principles: data confidentiality, data availability, and data integrity. You know, it's a SysUp question. That's something that we deal with every day. For this talk, risk mitigation principles, you want to control the environment. There's identity theft and data availability. So you still have that cool CIE triad, but the three principles, the three pillars are still there. And out of these three, the most important is to control the environment. If your person, whether it's you, whether it's someone who comes to you for assistance, whether it's a client, family member, doesn't matter. If they don't have a safe physical environment, the rest of it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you might have remote offsite backups and data redundancy if you're physically assaulted at home. Not to make light of it, but this is the most important thing. And again, the more pillars for controlling the environment: personal security, data security, and social leaks. You have to watch the social network. It's not a TV show. It's the friends and family leak. So step one is to get off the X. If you're in danger, leave. Very basic. We had a overseas meeting. I'm choosing my words because this is being recorded and it's going to be on YouTube. Long story short, case officer met with an asset overseas. It went south. Case officer came back home and we started to debrief what happened. The station chief, basically C-level, after listening to the debrief, he said, no bad situation ever got better by sticking around. You don't have to ask for permission. When I was giving this, I'm an employee now of Accenture, part of Revolutionary Security. One of the founders said, well, I want you to add this. You don't have to ask permission to leave a dangerous situation. Jim told me about a recent situation where one of the co-workers was out with clients. The clients were drinking heavily, and the other consultant didn't want to call a separate taxi because of the additional expense. He was afraid he would get in trouble for having another expense on the account rather than fleeing the situation. The same thing here. If it's a bad situation at home, domestic situation, you don't have to stay. You don't have to ask anyone to leave. You just leave, start over fresh the next day, and deal with the cards as they stand. So getting off the X, here's where if this was a live presentation, I would raise your hand and say, who's heard of this? I felt like Marco Rubio taking a sip of water during the presentation. So getting off the X, you want to have a bug out bag packed, a small bag, whether it's a purse, backpack, with your ID, your cash, a phone, your phone charger, your keys, everything you need to at least physically leave the premises. You want to keep your physical devices with you at a moment's notice. If you need to leave the facility, you have it right there with you. And a lot of the asterisks on these presentations are from experience dealing with cases with safe escape. What if there's stalkerware on the phone? How do you handle dealing with that? What if there's Find My Family activated on the phone and they're going to know everywhere you go? One thing we've recommended is that people keep a prepaid cell phone and prepaid credit card somewhere with them off-site. There was a nurse. No, she was a vet. Doesn't matter. We deal with a lot of people. She ended up keeping her personal goods with her, personal items with her in the safe at the veterinary office, at the doctor's office, because if you break into a house and get documents versus breaking into a medicine cabinet, the police are going to respond a little bit differently. That's far more secure than just keeping it under your seat of your car. In this presentation, we're going to diverge a little bit about if you leave, if they leave. This part, what if they leave? The abuser's left the premises, they're gone. Take a deep breath. What do you do next? Obviously, you got to change your passwords, change your locks and your codes to your house, to your garage door, your remote access frequencies. You have to sit and think just for a minute, what's really going on here? And, you know, like the little Cheeto, the username admin, password admin. Oh, geez. I've been heavily involved in a case, so I'm picking and choosing what to share for the presentation. Was assisting one person, and the garage door code itself, when you pull the flap down on the keypad, it says, if you have forgotten your keypad, your access code, follow this sequence to reset to gain access to the garage, right there on the garage door panel. Well, that's not really secure. Username admin, password admin. So changing your passwords, we'll get to that. Not to tell you how to do things, I would say call your landlord. Call your landlord, call the property manager. If you own your house, call a locksmith. Get the keys physically changed, the access key cards first and foremost. And after you make that call and have them coming to change the physical access, then you transition over. I think the term in the, was it? You pivot over, that's the industry term, over to your router, and you look at that. And being persistent throws.
Transmit to the clearance code for shield passage. Transmission commencing. they have a code clearance?
It's an older code, so it checks out.
So there's a movie about domestic drama, about a dad and his kids, tragic ending for the wife, and older code still checked out. And that's something I want you to keep in mind.
Shuttle Tidarium.
Persistent and thorough across all of the known shared passwords. So on a known safe machine and on a known safe network, that's a new addition, you need to change your passwords and your security questions for your accounts. If you're not sure if it's a safe machine and a safe network, maybe consider going somewhere else. A public library, when they reopen, is a good place to go. The Apple Store would work. Maybe at work, somewhere just not where you might have stalkerware on the machines. When you're setting up your new accounts, and this is something Americans do struggle with, it's okay to lie online, meaning fabricate your favorite security questions. Locations: where did your parents meet? Tatooine. Information: what was your favorite cup, or what's your favorite element? Sand. Well, you hate sand. It's coarse, it's grainy, it gets everywhere, but your favorite environment is sand. Events: love getting pancakes at Huddle House when you love Waffle House. Something that you're going to remember that's not true, that's not going to be on 23andMe, that's not going to be on genealogy.com, ancestry.com, that's not on Classmates, that's not on Facebook. You want to have an answer to the question. That's all it is. They're asking question A. They're just looking for whatever response you give them. That's what you have to do. Not what's your mother's maiden name. Well, if you roll over to genealogy.com and can look at your mother's maiden name, that's not much of a security question. That's can you Google. The other thing I'll warn you is make sure you write down your answers, probably on notepad and paper, because if you give an esoteric answer, you're probably not going to remember it. Most recent case, there's a scrap on the desktop and it said, beware of the things you leave behind in all the houses you change. I had permission from my client to add this to the presentation because this does deal with what's left behind in the house. What data can you glean from what was left behind for your case? As well as if you flee the situation, what information am I leaving behind that can be used against me? It's offense and defense all on the same side of the coin, if that makes sense. So looking at your router, you log onto your router, and the first thing you look is to see what devices are connected here. Does everything make sense? You see you've got an Android phone, a Mac laptop, there's a guest account, and then there's a PC. Well, what's that? Well, that's another key point. I used to teach NATO Special Forces. You don't have to name your device Will's iPhone. PC is the name of my iPhone for now, and I'm going to change it after the presentation. But you want to make sure everything on this screen showing what devices are on your network actually belong there. And if they're not, take a screenshot. That's going to be important for later. Your standard legal disclaimer: I can't tell you how to cover every single log location for the thousands of log routers in production. Remember to search for your specific model. Save your logs, change your password. If something's not right, and it's really not right, like having a wireless cam installed in your house and you never install them and you have to leave and call the police, call the police. This is an important time where you want to have evidence collected if there's something truly amiss. Talking with April before this presentation, you want to get a new router. So if there's something you're not sure, you can go to the local cable company, get a new router, ask for a new IP address, and then you can enable a safety praise with the ISP so that even if we'll call them the adversary, calls the local cable company, hey, I'm Bob Jones calling about Alice Jones' account. I would like to add myself to it, whatever. Unless they have that safety phrase, they can't do anything with the account. It's hardened. Again, it depends on your local ISP. Some do, some don't. The local one here in TKK, South Carolina, does have this. Your mileage may vary. So as you're setting up your new phone, you get your phone, you go to settings. The slides will be available later. Right now for iPhone 13, I haven't updated yet to 14 because I don't want to keep my battery life just yet. You go to settings, and then down here, after you log into Apple ID, after I've changed my Wi-Fi router, I look and I see I've got 3 devices connected to my account. That's right. I have 2 laptops and an iPhone. That's like it should be for me. That's perfect. Then I roll over to find my iPhone. Do I have the Blue Force tracker enabled where I can see everywhere my phone is, it's beaconing back out? If that's on, guess what? Take a screenshot, turn it off. You don't have to ask permission after you take your screenshot. Apple's also got a great feature, 99% of the time, under messages where you can forward your text messages to both of your laptops. Again, that's great. But with Safe Escape, we've seen guys who think they're hackers, kind of insulting, and they just add their phone number to the text message forwarding for their spouse, and now they're getting drop copies of all the former spouse's text messages. That's not hacking. That's enabling a plist. Turn it off. Very simple. Same thing, share my location, family sharing. Obviously, you want your location sharing turned off. Family sharing for all of your notes, photos, everything about your iPhone is shared with drop copies to everyone enabled. Yes, some people like that. We've seen both when I was with CIA and now with NATO Special Forces. Guys will go to the war zone. Soldiers, will go to the war zone, take photo of sensitive sites, things that happened, and now grandma is getting drop copies of war zone photos because family sharing was turned on. If this is enabled, you didn't enable it, take a screenshot, turn it off. Easy. On the Android side, Android's a little bit more, I believe, vulnerable. I'll get some hate for that on the Discord channel, but I don't have my Apple hoodie on, but Android does have some more concerns. Go to your account, your recently used devices, and see where you're signed in. Do these logins match with what you know should be accurate? If not, log them out. If so, leave it as is, but change your password. A couple of key data dumps, I suppose. For a Google account, for your Google Takeout, Magnet Axiom, Chris Vance with Magnet donated a full copy of Axiom to us. We thoroughly appreciate it. And we've been using that with Google Takeout to download every bit of activity associated with the account. And once that data is downloaded, you don't get it back. We all know this. So you want to make sure you have your Google Takeout and your Google account locked down before the adversary realizes what they have access to. Apple has this as well. If you log into iCloud.com, there's a way you can request your data. Apple's got multiple validation steps, multiple two-factor authentication. It's a 7-day download period to get it. And then once you go to download the data, you have to step back through the 2FA process multiple times to get the data. Apple's is not as granular as Google for good, for bad. But a lot of the deleted text, the IP login addresses, deleted emails, a lot of the data that the user thinks is gone is still there. So again, the yin and the yang, the good and the bad, this is out there. You want to make sure this is buttoned up and locked up. On the other hand, if you know there's something in your account that was deleted, you can go back and recover it. Everybody's favorite, Facebook, they collect more data, obviously, than a lot of TCOM companies do. First step, you want to go to account settings, security, active sessions to make sure everywhere you're logged into your Facebook account is truly what you want. If it's not, take a screenshot, log the other person out. Remember to change your password. And here's the other thing. Again, this will be available. Facebook records, if you have Facebook Messenger installed on your phone, it records all the text messages and phone calls granularity between A and B for at least a year. So if you have something horrifically abusive you need to recover, this is one way to get it. The downside is if they have access to this, they can access to this file, the adversary can see everything you've done, which could leave you in a vulnerable situation. So it's the good and the bad. This isn't telling you how to hack somebody. This is telling you this data is out there. You've got to lock it down. There are places on the Mac, some people know this. Oh yeah, I forgot about this, but this is just a lot of information at once. On your Mac, if you go to search icon, type in keychain.app, you'll see a list of all the saved passwords on the Mac within the keychain. type in the username, password again. This is for NPU's 2017 conference, back when we actually had physical conferences. And because I knew the username and password, the Wi-Fi password is guidance. So rinse and repeat, POC or GTFO. Same concept can be applied to Gmail accounts, whatever password is stored on that machine. Unless you explicitly remember to change that password, the adversary has access to these passwords in clear text with that password. Conversely, you'll know what is at risk and make sure to change your password. This is a new one from an active case I'm working today. Unauthorized access. So you go to your Mac, go down to your system preferences, look at sharing, look at users and groups. Those are the two ones I just worked on right before this presentation. Under users and groups, you want to make sure the accounts that are there are the accounts that should be there. Who has access to my account to log in? Do I have, you can have a guest account shadow or being shadowed by the admin accounts, kid situation where it's, parents shadowing kids. But has your ex or the ex of your person, are they shadowing this account through nefarious means? And you can also see what else is logged on at sign in. I had OpenVPN Connect from the Diane Initiative doing the capture the flag. I'm going to disable that just for a little bit of performance, just because I need every bit I can get. The other, this was right before the talk, the adversary had enabled remote management on the laptop and then had, excuse me, had the name of the person that was able to remotely SSH in on port 22 to the laptop every time they connected. Again, screenshot, talk to local law enforcement, disable that so the client doesn't have this risk, but this is something new. Most people aren't going to go to this link to monitor your ex, but it does happen. Being persistent and thorough. This image, it's like Inception. I received a USB drive from a local private investigator that had files on it. I mean, why else would they just give me a USB drive, right? So I ran Disk Drill. It's a great program. I think it's $79 for the full program. It undeletes files. Pretty decent interface. You can mount it as a DMG and harvest the files later if you want. They also have a forensically sound enterprise version. I don't work for them, but it's $500. Not bad for a forensic tool. Anyway, I'm kind of curious to see what else the PI had on there. Recovered this image you've read probably a couple of times while I've been talking about making sure you delete the messages that are on the phone. So it's a deleted message that was recovered, then deleted, and recovered again on this USB drive. So if you're going to leave USB drives behind, make sure you wipe them versus delete them, or just take them with you. Conversely, if something has been left behind and you're of the right mind, run Disk Drill and see what's available. You might find something of use to say, I did a horrific thing, I have guilt. The more information you can get to protect yourself from the adversary, the better. All right, why has he got a TV on here? One of the neighbors bought a 65-inch TV off of Facebook Marketplace. Asked me to move it. I did. They connected the TV and saw that the person who sold it was still logged into Facebook, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, and Twitter. Why you want to watch Twitter on a 65-inch TV? Twitter's toxic enough, especially 65 inches of inanity. So the person working in law enforcement obviously went through, logged everything out, didn't stalk the person they bought it from, logged out, did the right thing. But you have to remember, if you're still logged into these accounts, the other person does have access into a window for your life that you might have forgotten you logged into. That includes sharing the Netflix, spend the $7.99 a month to get a new account. You don't have to keep using the ex's account. Just, it's not worth it. So even if you're starting to lock your life down, hiding the evidence online, there are some apps out there that are available that might still reveal what's going on with you. From osintframework.com, there's a app that will let you go through and see a person's sleep cycle. So if you want to see how well Cam Newton is sleeping up in New England, where is Cam? I don't know anymore. I've lost track. If you want to see where is it, Jameis Winston in New England, how well he's sleeping before he plays the Panthers, you can plug in his UID from Facebook and get Cam Newton or Jameis Winston's sleep cycle, which is great if you're doing NATO Special Forces renditions to see where the adversary is sleeping. Conversely, even though all you're doing is liking and updating photos of your deer, the adversary can still get your sleep cycle just because you're still posting on Facebook. We talked earlier about the leaks from family and friends. Even if you've locked everything down and you're following good operational security, your family and friends can still say, oh, Will's going up to TKK Shore Club. Don't tell anybody, but he's wearing the new hoodie he got from BSides Charlotte. Well, now you know where I'm going and what I'm wearing. So if you're an adversary, you know my house is unsecured for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on the service is slow up there. You know what I'm wearing, and now I'm more of a target because family and friends leaked out that data. That's a fun example, but again, in the NATO world, we would see, oh, dad is deploying, mom is deploying to the war zone for the next year. Now you've beaconed out to the adversary that you're a target for approaching for, oh, what's their specialty? How long have they been doing this? The elicitation from the true foreign adversary can come in, but on the domestic front, the same threat is still there. You have to watch and say, Mom, I know you are proud of this, but you can't put this online. You've got to have everybody on board with it, or you stop telling them the plans and intent. Realize I've got to pick the pace up a little bit here. With the Ring doorbell, people install them. I don't know how many people in the audience have actually gone back to look at the quality. They're superb. It's 1080p, 4K, high quality, high definition audio visual. Adding somebody to this ACL, access control list, is very simple. You give them the email, you connect it to this, and they can see all the conversations you're having at your front door. This being a Carolina conference, we long talk. We have long conversations at the door when we arrive. We have long conversations when we leave. Now the adversary's got this window to see everything you're talking about and listening to in explicit high definition detail. And you might have forgotten, oh yeah, the X still has access to the doorbell. So scrub it just like you're working at the SOC or working for security at work. Remember to take them off that control list. The same for Amazon Alexa. I'm not going to say the phrase, but hey, every time you say that, that's recorded on your Amazon account. You've got your voice history, your smart alert history, your smart home history, and your permissions. You know, this was a bad episode of CSI Cyber back in 2012. People back in an innocent time, we would tweet about how ridiculous this was, that somebody could actually remotely access your smoke detector, remotely disable your burglar alarm, and then start a fire by overheating your printer. Well, we're not too far from that, where you can actually remotely disconnect the smoke detector and burglar alarm, and all you have to do is just have access to Alexa. So again, scrub your ACL on this. And I'm also a certified fraud examiner. There's a phrase called implied trust. Unless you explicitly remove them from this shared Amazon account, they can have all these things shipped to their new house on your credit card, and because you didn't explicitly remove them, they won't be processed. They won't be prosecuted because you still gave them concurrence. So it's something else you're going to want to scrub. Printers, I'm choosing my story here. There's some of the Windows properties. You can go back and look at the files and see what was printed. Some of the corporate printers, one of the tricks I like to do when I'm going to a NATO site, I don't have access to the network, but I'll hit print last or print spool. One place in Belgium, I got a list of all the headers for the emails. Even though it's unclass, I was able to see, okay, so this unit is going here. Here's the number of people that are going, here are the travel arrangements, and here's where they're coming back just by the titles of the document. Different place, classified environment, I just hit print last, and it printed every single document that printer had ever stored, still stored in RAM for the network. Didn't touch it. I was expecting to get one piece of paper. I got 500 pieces of papers. Went and got the security officer, told him what happened. Like, hey, I'm not touching this. You've got a vulnerability. I want to teach about it, but I'm not touching your classified because I'm not authorized. If that can happen in the corporate environment, that can still happen in the home environment. Even as something as simple as my $40 printer from Walmart, remember to take the document out from the scanner. Okay, I'm leaving. Well, you might have left your driver's license, your passport. Open up the document, open up the printer, and look and see what's left on the flatbed before you leave, or did they leave something behind? On the Mac, again, this will be available. Go to bar spool cups. The documents that start with C, the files that start with C, you're going to have the metadata. The ones that start with D are PDFs, and those are recoverable to the desktop. So here I just did the strings on a C file. I was able to see this is a coupon for World Market. It's always a coupon for World Market and Bed Bath & Beyond. But even just the metadata, you can get an idea of the plans and intent of what was left behind. Or for you, apartment lease agreement for, I don't know the name of apartment complex, but you got the point. This is all still available for any Mac laptop. So picking this up a little bit, email, mail, and PDF, and social media tracking. Thanks to marketing, there's a lot of available data that's out there that I don't feel people should have access to. A program called Superhuman, it uses a one-by-one cookie to pull back, and that's going to give you the date, time, and approximate GPS and IP of where the person read the email and how often they read it. Using a VPN will defeat that, obviously. Google's added this as well for Gmail to see how often the email has been opened. So now you know where they're reading the email. And with something like DocSend for Outlook, there's this beacon, and you can see now how long have they read the document, what page did they read, what did they skip over, and now they know exactly where you read the document. They've got this granular detail. So from business negotiations, if they're skipping over a key clause on page 14 that you're worried about, that's going to give you business intelligence. Here, you may not want to give the adversary that benefit. So on a Mac, type in Open Terminal, type in NDLS metadata list, drag and drop the file in there, and you're going to see this beacon, this large where's the form from. The beacon will sit there. If you work with this, you'll see the difference between files that have a beacon and files that don't. Windows doesn't have this capability yet. We've been looking up, continue to research for about a year. I haven't found anything. It's a very simple two-prong approach, three-prong approach. Use a VPN or use paper, use ink, print it out. They're not going to track that you printed a document. You have complete freedom with that. But be aware that these are some things that can be used against you. Another thing, man-in-the-middle, real-world version. I went to the Fort Mill post office, talked to the Fort Mill postal inspector. That sounds fancy, doesn't it? You get a PDF or a JPEG of every piece of mail that comes to your door. That's great if you're deployed overseas or if you're going to be away on a business trip, if you remember what those were. Conversely, the adversary can enable this before they leave and get copies, PDFs of every single piece of mail coming to your mailbox. And if you're getting a court document, check, something crucial, they can remove the one key file from the mailbox for true packet intercept, and the victim wouldn't know this is available. There are two ways to mitigate this. Either A, try to enable man-in-the-middle informed delivery yourself, or go to the post office and ask if anything like that has been enabled. So this is something to be cognizant of. It's a new threat. We haven't heard much about this, but it is available, and people are malicious. That's the point of the talk. Another threat vector we received when I gave this talk previously were the iCalendar and Google Cal. For things like TripIt, you send your Delta itinerary to plans@tripit.com, and it's going to parse out in a great app your itinerary, your booking confirmation, your seat number, arrival time, same for hotels. I would use this. My spouse would get it. My boss would get it. The client would get it. They would know all the details about this. But if that person is no longer part of your life, they don't need to get drop copies of the plans you're going to have for your business because of all the intel they could collect on you. So make sure you scrub even your travel apps or your kids' school calendars. So not everything on the internet is true. I hate to break it to you, but things can be faked. 1:14 a.m. Belarus, 1:15 Hawaii, 115, Kingdom, Saudi Arabia. You can project your GPS location on Twitter, just like Luke Skywalker from whatever water planet he was on. I didn't pay attention to episode 8. I hated it. So he's on that, and Kylo Ren sees the projection of Luke on whatever salt planet thing he was on. You can actually use that to force project your GPS for your tweets to be nearby. Right now, I could geolocate from TK, South Carolina. I'm still in the right GPS box. I could have my presentation and my tweets appear from the Westin Conference Room in downtown Charlotte. So you're going to have some ability to manipulate where you're actually projecting from. And if you're consistent, it can actually hide where you are. You don't have to use your true location. The further away you are, I did this in class last year for the NATO guys. I showed, okay, I'm in the back of the room, and I'm tweeting from Iran, Moscow, and Dar es Salaam, even though you guys see me in the back of the room. This is obviously not real. The more granular the detail, the more accurate your Twitter leak. And this website is tinfoleak.com if you're curious. All that's fake, that's great, that's good. But what's not fake is that I'm coming off of a Twitter from iPhone. That's bad. Come back to that in a second. The Grug says use Signal, use Tor. Well, I disagree. I say assume your devices are compromised. Programs like FlexiSpy using MSpy, it's very simple to target. And something like TinfoLeak is going to tell you if you're leaking out your Twitter information and say, here's how I'm vulnerable, here's how to target me. So I would say personal meetings. Have prearranged dates, times. I'll see you next Wednesday at Toast Cafe at 11 a.m. Leave your electronics behind somewhere routine and secure. Don't assume they aren't bugged until you know that you have clean devices. Have nonverbal paroles so that if you guys can probably see, or the audience can see, I've got Georgia Tech banners. If I was on Facebook, well, I'm not on Facebook, but if I was on Facebook with the University of Georgia sweatshirt, that would be the warning that, hey, something's wrong. Please come by and help me. Something's off here. As long as you have a prearranged parole and they know it means something, a misspelled hashtag in a tweet or sending out a tweet from Boston means I've talked with Boston FBI, something only you and the other person are aware of, there's still a lot of nonverbal communication you can use that the adversary wouldn't be aware of. Now, for iPhone monitoring, they call this hacking, whatever. So for MSpy, Alice provides Bob's Mac ID and password to MSpy, and then, dude, where's my car? And then Bob's phone has to be synced to the iCloud with power connected. And then all that has to be provided to MSpy. They then parse out a backup of the phone and give all the data back to Alice. That's not hacking. That's just you've got my username and password and you're parsing my backup. But on Android, MSpy has a beautiful thing. You create a phishing SMS targeted to Bob's phone within MSpy. Bob clicks on the link, and now you've got access to all the data on the phone. And we're supposed to talk about updates. So for the 2020 SOC update, if a work-from-home employee's bring your own device has stalkerware, how's your SOC going to respond to this? It's more than an information security concern. It's a life problem. You can't just call Jane Doe in the office. Why do you have hackerware on your phone? She may not be aware that somebody's put this on her phone. It's a little bit gentler concern, a little bit gentler handling. And if you don't plan to handle this before something arises with the large employers like Bank of America, AT&T, American Airlines, the probability of this happening is probably at least 1 to 2 cases. But be aware this could be something you're encountering. Now, for trapping your device, if you want to see if someone's accessing your phone while you sleep, there's a great app called Sleep Cycle. It uses the potentiometer within the phone to see how well you're sleeping at night. You put the phone on the mattress, goes face down, and if your phone's not moving, you're in heavy sleep. If your phone's tossing and turning like you are, you'll know you didn't sleep well. I use that when I travel a lot to see, which mattress works for me, which one am I going to buy when it's time for a new mattress. Yeah, that's part of getting old, I guess. You're worried about your mattress and your sleep cycle. But if you put your phone on your bug out bag, with Sleep Cycle running, you've got the cover story of, I just had my phone in my bag. I'm sorry, I forgot to put it on the nightstand. And now you can see your phone's moved in the middle of the night, you've got an indication that something else is going on. Now, with the latest iPhone update, you've got even more granular information. If you go to battery, because we're all monitoring battery updates because iOS update's coming to make you buy a new phone. It's not conspiracy theory, it's proven. You can look at your battery level and see from, 11 p.m. till 6 a.m. Basically, I didn't touch my phone. That's a miracle. And you can see very granular exactly what device was used, what app was used in those hours, minute by minute. So you put your phone down, nothing happens. That's a great sign. Or if your iPhone or if your iMessages, your Twitter, and your Instagram were open from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., that's a problem. And now you've got an indication that there's a level of distrust and you might want to start considering fleeing the situation if that's right for you. We talked about using a known safe machine. Apple has a dual purpose in that if you reboot your laptop, hold down Command R for recovery. You can Google your laptop to make sure things haven't changed since I gave the speech. You can get help online, which is actually freaking ironic, but you have a clean OS without any spyware, stalkerware installed. You enter your credentials to connect to the router, and now you have a clean session on your laptop, clean of any spyware, where you can log on to a clean Gmail, send something to help@safeescape.org or whoever, and start to beacon out to ask for assistance getting away from a stalker situation. And then once you reboot back, there's no trace left on the laptop unless, looking around my lab here, unless they actually brought it in and did a full-blown blacklight magnet axiom analysis, but probability, that's probably not going to happen. So that's a lot on the iPhone. That's a lot on the laptop side, on the printer side. With the advent of Amazon, people think they're James Bond. They think they're CIA's DS&T. They think they're Q. Dude, you want Amazon bought something. That's not hacking. So something as benign as this micro USB camera. Put the SD card in, put it in the wall. Now you've got power. You have a collection. And, that's great. If your apartment complex is going to send somebody over, that's not me. He's wearing red. I don't wear red. Unless it's a problem, then I'm wearing red. But now you've got this camera of, okay, the repair person's coming in the house. They have this. I can see who's coming in, how long they're there. Everything's good. Okay, it has a use. That's cool. But if we're talking the surveillance of a domestic partner, that crosses the line. That's a little bit illegal. We have 3 settings to play with. There's the power, the collection, and the storage. With the power, if it's always on and always collecting, it has to be hardwired into AC. If it's always collecting, you're going to run out of storage, so it's going to have to beacon back, connect to the Wi-Fi for connection to the cloud or connection to another device. So that would show up to both being plugged into the AC network of the house as well as a Wi-Fi network. So you start to see how these work together. If it's low power, limited collection, and short storage, someone's going to have to physically come in and service the device. And okay, these are all from Amazon. My search history is trashed. You've got a 1080p camera that connects to the iPhone through the wireless router, so you can always see what goes on in the house. That's a little creepy. Risk mitigation for this is unplug it, call the police if this has been left behind. That's wiretapping. That's illegal surveillance. They take this pretty seriously. And I hate that these keep getting updated the more I give this talk because there's just more. It looks like a normal air freshener. It's a 720p camera, has battery life, and it has limited storage for the SD card, so someone actually have to come in and physically monitor that. The Amazon Alexa Blink Mini, show me the living room. Well, come on. That's not anything Q would have to do for James Bond. That's just a camera connected to your living room. You should know if that's out there, I would hope. The last thing is a 128-hour USB recording device just for audio. You flick the knob one way, it's continuous recording. You flick it the other way, it's burst recording. You put something like a blacklight logo on there or some other appropriate company tool. It just looks like a company drive. So if you need to protect yourself, check with an attorney to see if it's legal. But now you have a non-obtrusive way to monitor a conversation if it's going a little bit south. Or if you need to carry it during a traffic stop, whatever else, you get the idea. Because that's far less obtrusive and confrontational than, being that guy that you see on 9gag or YouTube or Twitter holding up the phone and recording people. This is very benign if you need to use it, but be aware that these are out there for the recording device. We talked about the device that would come and go between, having to service it. Well, the nanny cam, we had a case where the kids would put the nanny cam right behind mom. They didn't know it was a nanny cam, but the dad was able to remotely able to watch her. I can't talk. They would take the nanny cam back to dad's, the stuffed animal. He was able to get her keystrokes, access her Twitter, and access her Facebook and stalk her. She was in court for about 5 years until we cracked the case to figure out it was the nanny cam the kids are taking back and forth. So now he gets, I think, 3 meals a day, a cot, and free healthcare in a government facility. The electronic surveillance devices, we've got, this is a new one with Apple. You can use your AirPods in hearing aid mode. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's not bad. But the downside is you put the earbuds in, connect it to your iPhone with Bluetooth, you leave your phone in the room, you walk off to other rooms, and you're still able to listen using the microphone on your phone to listen to the room's conversation of whoever's in there remotely. Kind of creepy. Now we've seen this a little bit writ large where they reverse engineered the Bose headphone app because the Bose noise canceling headphones are always listening to see what's being said to cancel it out. Now this person reverse engineered it, and they're funneling that take back to their server to listen to see now what the X is saying about him. So if there's something off, why did they give me these headphones right before they left? Get rid of them. I love Amazon. One of my good friends works there, but some of the things they sell are questionable. There is, showing my age a little bit, it looks like a 2G modem on a mini Pelican case that goes with the magnet under the car. It's $49.95. Got 4-star rating. That's not bad for stalkers. There are 3,765 people out there who need to rethink their lives. It goes under the spouse's car, and you can monitor it for $25 a month with the app. Very questionable. It's very easy to see, if you've got this thing underneath the car, okay, but here's your beacon collection. Except it's not a beacon. I was doing forensic analysis of my iPhone, and that's not my beacon. That's my iPhone driving around for quite some time in Charlotte. And I took the GPS, made a KML file, drag and drop to Google Maps, Google Earth, and there you go. You can see you don't need a beacon to physically be stalked if they have access to your phone backup. Change your passwords. A couple more cases of this. If you're worried about being stalked, get rid of the Fitbit, get rid of the Strava fitness app. Just don't. If you're worried about that, just leave it at home, put it on the dog. I've got deer right here outside the window, put it on deer. Just don't publish where you're going for a jog. It'll be okay. The latest photo, 2:39 in the afternoon, my phone's already on red. Apple's now got a family setup for the Apple Watch where you can monitor and see where the phone goes. 99% of the time, it's fine. But if you have a situation where the X is stalking you, maybe consider not having the beacon on your wrist. All right, well, I get it. It's too much. I'm going to order pizza. If you're on the south side, I would say go to Luigi's Pizza. It's the best pizza in Charlotte. But if you're like me, getting this talk ready, go to Domino's. And you have to be persistent and thorough because Domino's retains the last 2 years of your order history. If you order pizza every Thursday night with your kids, you take the kids to a new location, they know your they know your password. They can still see where you are because you forgot to change your password. But dude, I'm skipping pizza. I'm going to the gym. It's finally open. That's great. But Planet Fitness now logs every login every time you badge in at Planet Fitness. That's available. So that's something else you've got to consider changing your password. Believe it or not, we're in the home stretch. Identity theft is very binary. If there's identity theft, you have to go to identitytheft.gov and report it. This hits the fraud triangle of opportunity, rationalization, and pressure. The adversary knows you're going to lose your income from the split. They know that it's going to be harder. They've got a divorce to pay for, the chance for domestic fraud, and most cases don't get prosecuted for domestic fraud. There's an author, Pink Collar Fraud Guideline. She's on LinkedIn. She's got a book on this. The DAs don't like to prosecute domestic fraud. So it's urgent that you pay attention to this and make your person, your victim, whatever you want to call them, aware that they've got to be aware of this. I tie this in a thing called Spoof Card. It's fun, but you could plug in SunTrust Banks, their telebank number, 404-230-5555. If you're a SunTrust customer and I call you from this number, this 404-230-5555 is going to show up as a number in their contact list, and it's going to say this is SunTrust. There's the implied trust. And because of all the financial turmoil during a domestic split, they're going to be more apt to volunteer information. So you have to be aware there's so many vectors for fraud through a domestic split. You have to be more aware. I'm repeating myself, but the opportunities are ridiculous. Go to identitytheft.gov. If it's happened, you have to report it. Again, known, safe, secure computer. The local police will tell you have to log in here as well to get a case number. Once you get the case number, you can report that to the banks and they can start to process that. But for InfoSec professionals, if there's identity theft, clean, safe machine, identitytheft.gov, they've got to report it. They have to call the police. They have to contact the bank. Unless you report it, there's nothing they can do. The last day we had control the environment. We had identity theft. The last is data availability. We would say if it ain't in cable traffic, it ain't. Oh yeah, I was promised I was going to get a PCS to Maui. Well, if it ain't in cable traffic, it ain't. Same mindset here. If you don't document what happens as it happens, it doesn't count. So as you're helping your person, as you're helping the victim, I don't like the word victim, as you're helping this person overcome a negative event, document files, make a label, create an index. This is data recovery I did. Shame on me. You can. Which one is the key file? Which one is the spam? And which one is the hotel check-in? Good luck with that. This is recovery from Disk Drill, which is also, not to go back to Disk Drill, I don't work for them. I was able to recover all of these files with Disk Drill, but the name itself leaves a lot to be desired from the program. But this recovered files that were scanned that weren't searchable with OCR. So it's some good and some bad, but again, you've got to document things as you find them. Be available for the other person. It might sound basic. They're coming to you with a technical problem, but the technical problem is just a larger part of what they're going through. That's not going to be the rest of their life. This is just, for this slice of time, I have this issue, I need your help. I'm talking like, the world is back to normal, but if they want to go back to go get a pizza instead of going to Domino's, be available for them. Be a normal person. It's okay. I shouldn't have to say that, but you deal with all personality types. I'm kind of digging a hole here, but be normal. Take them to football, take them to basketball, back or the gym if we can do that anymore. But remember, they're going through something horrific, and being a good person goes a long way. 2 is 1, 1 is none. In the Avengers font that I had to show off here. So if you get this USB drive, you get a copy of the phone, you have your primary, your alternate, a contingency copy, and an emergency. Paste. With Operation Safe Escape, if a client has key files and documents, a copy will go to an attorney, a copy to a family member, a copy to the volunteer working with them, and then another copy for a safe deposit box. That way, even if one goes down, there are 3 backups. Especially working with USB drives and laptops off the corporate system, We can't go back to Druva and recover the data that's been out there for years. If that one drive is lost, the whole case is lost. You want to make sure you have a documented, reliable backup plan. Couple of things to consider as we get into the end game for this. We do have a stigma for being hackers. People give us magic powers. If you know, oh, he's a hacker, she's a hacker, she can do this and that and the other. Well, not really. But to law enforcement, to other attorneys, anything that's an anomaly, if you actually do cross the Rubicon and do something, there's going to be more attention brought to your actions trying to hack into someone's Gmail. You don't want the attention. Stay beyond reproach. Do the right thing. Now, when we would terminate a human asset overseas, and not terminate like we just cut the relationship, we wouldn't terminate. That sounds horrible. Instead of saying, hey, Bob, we're done with you. Well, now you've got distrust, you've got resentment. Hey, I've got my own cell phone plan. I don't want you to see who I'm calling. But if you say, going through work, we've got a great cell phone plan. I'm able to get a plan through them at a severe discount. That's going to save you $100 a month. I can take care of it. That's going to help you out. My new numbers, I'm not sure what it is yet, but I'm getting, well, you've hidden your new number. You've told them it's already happened. It seems like a good thing. You're saving the other person $100 a month, and it's done. You're not asking for permission. It's already complete. That's just an example, but there's ways you can approach the situation to get that separation without causing a confrontation. Last couple of slides I want to stick with you. Shared technology in a domestic conflict. One device here, strong encryption, strong authentication. Data repository was actually used as a backup for the other source of encryption. C3PO, weak encryption for domestic conflict. The device was wiped a couple of times now. And when you're considering leaving something behind a domestic conflict, if I deleted the files or did I wipe the files? Last one, unauthorized devices on a network. Looking at your router. If Thanos had a router, he sees Nebula 2023 show up on the 2014 network. A rogue device is detected. He did live memory forensic analysis. Shout out to Andrew Case on that one. He always loves that joke. And Thanos was able to do a takeout analysis of all the chats, locations, and images of plans and intents being used against him. Conversely, there was a drop copy of Nebula created, the Avengers weren't aware of. Their plans and intent were leaked out to the adversary. They didn't know it, which caused a major domestic problem when Thanos showed up at the doorstep unexpectedly because he knew where to go because of the memory analysis. Again, the offense and the defense. So we're at the end here. Too long, didn't read. Change your passwords, change your locks, document things, and you still have to report events to law enforcement. If you don't report events as they happen, it's tough, but you've got to do it for the record to protect yourself, to protect the other person. Thank you for sitting through this. I'm pretty sure I went a little bit over. I'm iOS Forensic on Twitter, 10x@engineer.com, and thank you for coming to the presentation.